All right, welcome to another episode of Heart of Education. Today I have Shawn Lowry. He is a host at Conquer the Chaos podcast. Make sure you follow him and his wife. He is a parenting expert as well as the author of the book No Perfect Parent. Shawn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. I'm blessed. I feel lucky that I'm able to get on here, man.
Hey, man, I'm honored to have you as a guest. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself beyond what I just introduced? I know that obviously, of course, you're also an awesome husband and father without saying it.
Yeah. I'm a father of four. So I have four kids. Literally from teenager to a little toddler. So my hands are full. But yeah, I'm married. Um, like what Rock said, yeah, I've been doing this thing with families for about man. Started since 2014. Um, but yeah, it's just been awesome to be able to help different families and see different relationships grow and been able to meet Rock and yeah, it's been awesome. So that's pretty much that's the quick rundown. Um, yeah, I mean I've spoken at schools, spoken at Boys and Girl Scouts, um, yeah, churches. That's pretty much it, man.
Awesome, yeah. Um, well, let's just dive right into the questions here.
Yeah.
So, what has your journey been in how you lived and viewed this thing called education?
Well, yeah, it's funny. It wasn't till maybe my mid 20s where my view on education changed. Because like many people, I thought, hey, you go to school, and then you go to college, and then you get your job, and that's pretty much it. That's the end. And then as I got older, I realized, well, no, there's more to this. And yeah, that was pretty much it. It took me a while though to actually like reset that because I feel like schools teach you how to be employees and not necessarily how to be employers. So
Hmm. Okay, so what would you say is the key mindset difference between like an employee and an employer? Like the boss, right, or manager, and just the grunt worker. What would be like the key mindset you feel like that's lacking in your experience?
I would say as far as like you're saying just the difference as far as mindset, right?
Yeah, like what's lacking in the school system that's not being taught, you feel like?
Well, so many times they're more so telling you the answers. They're more so giving you, telling you what to do in what order. Where I feel like with entrepreneurship, right, you have to adjust, right? You have to adjust. You have to be able to learn on the fly. But at school, they teach you to just be one way,
Mm,
and everything's based off of a grade system where obviously yes you do need something so they can kind of know where you're at, but at the same time it's not necessarily about, I feel like, the grades, because you can go through life just saying like, okay, yeah, I got straight A's, but I didn't learn anything, right? Like, like I know for me, like I'm not the best at math, but I would make sure I pass math. And like you would ask me after that semester, like, what did you learn? I don't know. I just did what was required so I can get the grade. I didn't
mm,
necessarily learn like, okay, how can I use this in my everyday life? Right. And so as an employee, just think about it, you clock in, you clock out, and you do what's just necessary. Right. A lot of times you just do the bare minimum too. Let's be honest. You're like, I'm just trying to clock in, clock out so I can go home and be with my family. So I'm just gonna do what they told me to do. I'm not gonna think outside the box. Right. They encourage you, they ask you those questions, but it's very rare that people at a job go over and beyond to make the job better. And if they do, they decide, okay, I'm gonna go into management or something like that, right? But most of the time, employees is like, oh, okay, what you want me to do? You want me press this red button? Okay, when the light turns off, press the green button. All right, I'll do it for 8 hours, and that's pretty much it. And the same thing with school, right? Okay, I'm gonna go in class. Okay, this is how it's supposed to be. I just do this and do that. Matter of fact, don't question the teacher, right? Like just give the correct answer and that's it. Sit there, be quiet, don't venture off. Now, there's not all teachers. There is some great teachers that's like, oh no, you know what? That's a great question. Let's figure that out together, right? But I know for me growing up, it was like, no, this is the answer and that's it. Like, don't ask me any other question. We don't have time for that. So. That's how I kind of feel like as far as that goes.
Right. There's this like inherent mindset of like obedience, and that's what employers want. They just want you to come in, like you said, clock in and do your job.
Yeah,
And of course, they would love to have you feel like there's a sense of ownership, but you really can't instill that, right, without like this sense of like, oh, I don't want to question the boss. I don't want to question.
yes,
I don't want to come in and rock the boat of whatever company I'm working for, right?
yes,
It's kind of like that grading system is grading you, like, oh, yo, I'm here to get the grade.
yes,
I get my paycheck now, right? Instead of a grade, it's a paycheck. And
yeah,
there's something to be said about like, okay, punctuality, responsibility. Absolutely, those are important things, right?
hmm,
No one's going to say those aren't important.
yeah,
Especially in our culture where time is money.
yeah,
But there's also something to be said about like creativity, and it sounds like you're saying like, yeah, there's got to be a sense of like, you know what, let's try something. If it doesn't work, I mean, is my job going to be at risk, right?
yeah,
Because I quote unquote failed, right? Like, oh, I got an F from my employer this quarter because I tried something new,
yeah,
innovative, and okay, it didn't work. Is my boss gonna just say, okay, well, you know what, you're out?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
sorry.
No, yeah, and I think too is with um again, I can't speak for all teachers or schools, but a lot of schools, like, right, success is be a doctor, a lawyer, go to USC, right, go to UCLA or Texas University, whatever. Those are that's almost defined as success when you go to school, right? Like if you say I'm gonna be now, I'm sure now teachers are more open to it, but I'm sure still there's a lot that still push back from it where they're like, hey, I'm gonna be a YouTuber, I'm gonna be a gamer. Like, you sure you want to even right? It trickles down to the parents too, right? Like if you have your kids saying like, "Oh yeah, I want to be a gamer," like, I don't know, like I don't know how to feel about that, right? Um, let's you need to go this route because this is the safer route, right? That's I guess that's the best way to put it. With school, what they teach you is to play it safe, right? Everything is to play it safe, and our parents was taught that as well, so they instill that into us, and then we instill that into our kids. Where it's like play it safe. Now, again, I feel like especially now in 2022, we're more open to certain things, but a lot of it is just play it safe. Don't ruffle no feathers because we're always worried about what's the worst case, right? What's the worst situation that can happen instead of, but if it succeeds, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, you brought up an important point. Like I was interested in having you on this podcast because you have the parenting aspect of it, right? You mentioned that not only the school is teaching you to play it safe, so to speak, right? Don't draw outside the box, right? Like don't color beyond this page. You're just
Yeah.
supposed to do exactly what it is. And as a parent, do you feel that is kind of innately, what is the driving force of like this parenting aspect in relation to education? Like, can you kind of maybe clarify that?
Yeah, because we as parents, we're the first teachers, right? We're their first teachers. They literally take on a lot of what we do, what we say, even if we don't want them to, right? My youngest daughter, she the other day she mimicked what my wife says all the time. This is when we were gone, but she was talking to her little brother, and she mimicked exactly what she says, like, "Oh, you're just doing too much," right? And it was just funny because that's something that my wife always says. And we were like, wait, what? Like our oldest told like, yeah, she was saying she was talking to, Shiloh, and he was just acting up, he wasn't listening. She's like, oh, you're doing too much. Right. And just something simple like that. So we are the first teachers. So it comes down to us. So like for me, do I think college is important? Absolutely. Do I think college is the only way for success? No. My oldest is about to be a senior. I asked her straight up, do you want to go to college? If you don't want to go to college, then we need to come up with a plan, right, to what you want to do. If you do want to go to college, cool. But I want you to know you don't have to go to a university. A junior college is okay. Because for me, growing up, junior college was also looked at like, oh, it's okay. Like, oh, you're going, I guess, like that's all right. So I wanted to let her know, like, no, if you go to a junior college, that's absolutely acceptable because one, it's cheaper. Two, you're still trying to figure out what you want to do. So it's okay. So yeah, for me, I feel like, as parents, we are the first teachers. And especially obviously if you're homeschooling as well, right? Like you're you play even a bigger role because you have even a well, as parents we already have a huge impact, but now you're literally the teacher and the parent. So
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up that point about how parents are the first teachers,
mhm.
and not just for what we think of as formal education, but just in life in general.
Yeah,
I was just talking on TikTok about how parents are the ones that teach social skills, not
yeah,
the other way around.
yeah, yeah,
Because, for example, if you have a rule in your house that says you must share everything, then when the child goes outside the house to the community, let's see, just school, because everyone understands, right?
yeah,
They have this expectation. Well, you got to share that toy with me, little Johnny, because that's how it is in my house. That's what I've
yeah,
been taught.
yeah,
And if you don't, we're gonna have a problem. I'm
yeah.
gonna tell the teacher
True.
because that's what they were taught.
Yeah,
Versus other parents, maybe they teach their kids like how to differentiate. Like, okay, this is yours, so you get to keep it. And then there's community things, like
yeah,
whatever's in the kitchen is community, so that's shared. That's okay.
yeah,
You got this for your birthday, so that's your toy, and it's absolutely okay if you tell your siblings, "Hey, not for you,"
yeah,
especially if they're if they're the older sibling.
yeah,
So it's very interesting how you said, like we are as parents, and we are literally their first teacher.
yeah,
Just in everything in life.
yeah.
Um, which
I
kind of
agree.
leads me to my it leads to my kind of other question, which is like, in your experience, what are some of the most important components of parenting that maybe some parents like miss as you have experience like coaching some parents?
That's a big one. The reason why I say that's a big one is because I feel like there is a lot of stuff that parents miss or need to work on, I guess. But letting the first one, I guess, I'll say is letting your child make mistakes. Um, it's okay for your child because that's how they're learning, right? A lot of times we want to protect our kids from every single thing. So, well, I guess I'll list that first. So letting your child make mistakes, having unrealistic expectations. That's number two. Number three is communication, right? Making sure that you guys are having a real dialogue, right? Not just hey, what I say goes, um, and explaining. And so even if it is one of those things where your household is what I says goes, okay, that's fine. Like no, you can't go out at such and such time. Okay, cool. Now give you a reason, right? It's just not like okay, I don't want you to do this and that's it. Especially in today's generation, they want to know the reason why. Right. So communication, um, what was it underestimating a problem. So when I say that, because obviously, right, with mental health, that's a big thing, especially with teens and stuff like that. And so a lot of times we downplay it. What do you have to be sad about? Oh no, you're fine, right? You get out your room. Why are you always in your room? Like, no, you just don't want to be bothering me. And we're taking it, as something else where there's something bigger going on, but we kind of downplay it. And then the last one I would say is lead by example, right? Making sure we're leading by example because it doesn't matter what we say. If you tell your kids, hey, you know what, you shouldn't, I don't know, dress a certain way. Let's say you're a mother, you shouldn't dress a certain way. Like, no, you have to be more respectable. But then they see you going to a club and you have booty shorts on and your breast is all out or whatever like that. So they're like, well, you're telling me not to dress this way, but you're dressing that way, right? So those would be the ones that stick out to me. But yeah, and I guess I could elaborate on them a little bit more if you want, but those are the ones that kind of stick out.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love for you to elaborate, especially on like expectation,
Hmm.
communication, and I think the first one was making mistakes. Right. I feel like
Oh
those
yeah,
three are very interconnected,
yeah, yeah,
in my mind. But I want to hear your sort of your opinion based on experience with helping parents.
yeah,
And yeah, can you just kind of help me connect those dots in your
yeah.
way?
I feel like letting your child make mistakes. That was the first one. Because I've helped parents. I had a couple clients like that where they were so afraid because of certain mistakes that they made in their life that they were so like to the point where their child couldn't even go outside, right, to play. And I get it, don't get me wrong, it's a crazy world, going on and things like that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, still it's okay if your child wants to run and play outside. You can stand out there with them in the shade, right? But literally like overprotected where, they couldn't necessarily be active in sports, their child, or they couldn't go over to a friend's house, things like that. Um, because they get so afraid or literally where they're, even where they're filling out job applications for them, right? Um, or they're not even letting them like just the simplest things like, hey, iron their clothes because oh no, you're doing it wrong. Oh no, you could burn yourself, right? Oh no, I'll wash your clothes for you, right? And they don't realize that that's actually enabling their child, right? And so now when they get in the real world, they don't know what the heck to do. Now when they get in the real world, they're expecting dad or mom to fix the problem, right? And because of that, that's like it's a trickle down effect. So now all of a sudden it's impacting their relationships because now they're looking for relationships like that. Where it's like, oh, can you almost be a parent to me in a way, And so it's just so many different things with that. But and then I think you said underestimating the problem, right? Was
It
the
was, I think, unrealistic expectations and
Oh,
communication,
unrealistic
right?
expectations.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because for example, my son plays basketball, so I can have an unrealistic expectations like a lot of parents at times, right? When our kids play sports, oh, they're gonna go pro, oh, they're gonna make the league, right? And I had a friend actually, or I have a friend actually that played football really good, and he was supposed to get a scholarship, but literally something with his kidney or liver, I can't remember. But they basically told him he couldn't play anymore. Like he played anymore, like it wasn't going to turn out good, right? And he really broke down. He went through a depression, a big depression in his life because of the fact that his parents were literally looking at him like you're the way out. Like you're supposed to be the way out, right? Or same thing, hey, you're supposed to go to Harvard, right? You're supposed to go to this college because everyone in the family went to this college, so you have to go there. Everyone in his family is in the medical field, so you have to be in the medical field, right? And then so we start putting all these expectations, and let's say your child is a lawyer or a doctor, goes to a certain college, but they're depressed or they have actually some type of ill will towards you, right? Like and they're carrying that resentment towards you, and of course they love you, but deep down inside they're upset with you. They feel like you robbed them of certain things. They feel like they couldn't be their selves, right? That's one of the worst things I know growing up for me. At times I feel like I couldn't be myself. Like, that's one of the worst feelings ever for a child. It's feeling like they can't be themselves. Just imagine constantly being home and you have to feel like you're being fake. Like imagine what that does to a child. So that and then I forgot the last communication, right? Communication. Okay, I want to make sure communication. Yeah, again, it's just because I feel like that's such a huge thing because if we don't communicate with our kids and talk to them about even the most difficult things, the world will teach them. And depending on how you view the world, that's probably not the best thing, right? Like, oh man, the first time I found out about sex was, on YouTube. The first time I found about, the gay community was YouTube. My friend, the first time I found out about whatever it is, right? And you want to be however you feel about certain things, you want to be able to talk to them. Hey, yes, this is the gay community. This is what they do. This is what they have going on, blah, blah, blah. Hey, yes, with sex, this and this and this. There's so many clients as well that I've helped that literally told me, like, for example, they struggle with certain addictions, right? Either with men, with women, with porn, right? Different things like that. And it traces back to them not literally having the sex talks with their parents. Like, they didn't know. This is one of those things to the point too. They was actually scared of it. Like, oh my gosh, like it's like it's icky, like almost like cooties, right? And then when they was exposed to it, they overload because they didn't know. So I feel like communication is just a big thing because in any relationship, think about it. What great relationship have you ever had in your life where you had no communication? It doesn't exist, right? Your best friend, you have great communication with. There might be times where you guys talk about things you don't want to talk about. You guys might argue, you might bump heads, but you appreciate your best friend for it, or that close sibling, or close family member, close coworker, whatever it is. There's always communication. You guys don't just be like, okay, you should know that. Like, no, you're talking about certain things. And so I feel like if we do the same thing with our kids, then it will go a long way. If you have that communication, there can't be no confusion, because then as well you're letting them know, hey, I'm not perfect. I screw up here. Like, So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you brought up that it seems like that if you as a parent have some sort of wound, right? Because you said like the parents who are have the most unrealistic expectations are also the same ones that had those expectations put upon them by their family
Yes.
members, and if they never really truly heal from it, what I mean by healed is really look at it and say, okay, what is it? What is the lessons I can draw from this? Right? Can I get rid of my emotional attachment and how I view what my parents did to me?
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like a lot of people take those wounds very personally. Like, oh, it happened to me, therefore it was about me. The most often thing I've seen in public education, is like, oh, my parents divorced because of me. It's like, really? You really think you caused your parents' divorce?
Yeah.
Pretty unlikely, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but then they never really go back to that time when it happened and really look at like, well, I'm an adult now. Can I view this situation as an adult, or am I still viewing this situation from my child's perspective,
Yeah.
or my me as a child, excuse me, um, because that's really important. I
It is.
caused everything right as a child because that's just how kids grow up. They can't see beyond their own perspective, and
Hmm.
so when you apply it to life and things happen, you're like, oh, must be my fault. But you never go back and actually think like, wait a second, is that really what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have those conversations, right? If your parents never had like a real conversation of what took place, especially as you get older, right? You have to understand, hey, you know what? Your dad stepped out of the marriage. Hey, you know what? Your mom stepped out the marriage. This is what happened. This is what took place. It had nothing to do with you. We both love you, but it just wasn't the best fit for us. But it has nothing to do with you. This is something I messed up on, or this is something me and your mom. You know what I mean? Like letting them know, understand where they're like, okay, like I'm upset still. I'm still hurt, but I understand. Okay, this was a decision that they did. This has nothing to do with me because I didn't know that my mom was doing this, or my dad was doing this. So yeah, it's just one of those things that communication, goes in all aspects, and can clear up a lot of things if you have it.
Yeah, my next question is very related. Is since COVID, especially
Hmm.
with it being something of a major event for a lot of people, um, what have you noticed about parents and their parenting style as it relates to like what those three things you said, right? Like, has it gone better, worse, or is it just all over the map with COVID?
Well, one, I want to say parents for sure appreciate teachers more, since COVID and things like that. But I feel like now parents, in a lot of ways, they were forced to have better communication or try to, right? Because it's not one of those things now. Okay, I send my kid to school. Okay, you come home, just do your homework. Like, I don't know what you're doing, just do it. Right now, it forced them to be more engaged. It forced them to maybe to be like, okay, hey, I have to kind of let you make mistakes on certain things because this is all new and I don't even know, right? So many times as parents, myself, like I didn't know certain things how it was going to work. I'm like, okay, wait, so you're supposed to do what? You're supposed to do this, do that, and we have to do that through Zoom, or we have to go to this website to do, right? So all these different things. So I feel like, um, in a way, it helped it, and then in a way too, it also is a double edged sword. I guess it could also hurt it because, um, I don't know statistically, so I can't say for a fact, but just from people I know, and things like that, a lot of relationships were affected, right, because of COVID. Either spouses or kids as well were bumping heads because we were all stuck in the house, right? We were stuck in the house, so um, I think it was one of those things where, um, there was issues that came from it at times, but it needed to happen because now you're paying attention. Okay, wait, my child, I never realized my child acts this way, right? Like you have to pay, you was forced to actually pay attention a little bit more, right? So that's what I noticed from that. And now obviously with that being with us getting back to some normalcy, um, at least from what I've seen parents being more involved. Now it could just be because I don't know where I moved to, because where I moved to now, like the parents are always involved, like it's crazy. But that's why I see parents constantly involved. School is constantly involved, making sure everyone is on the same page. So from my experience, that's been the positive that's came from it.
Awesome. Yeah, so there's this trend. I don't know if this is a recent trend, but at least when you scroll through social media, you see words like reparent, gentle parenting, and really questioning the old methods, right? Of like you said, like if you don't do it this way, I'm gonna spank you.
Yeah,
The harsh discipline that a lot of comedians actually use, to joke about, like that's how I grew up.
yeah,
I would get whooped by my parents.
yeah.
And I think that goes across quite a few cultures. Whether it's Asian, Latino, African American, like we all know a comedian who's at least made those kind of jokes
Oh
at
yeah,
least
yeah,
once.
yeah.
You know, so, what is your thought about what this recent trend of like reparenting, gentle parenting, or parenting with love, whatever is the most popular phrase for it?
I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I feel like with when it comes to reparenting, because reparenting is basically meaning, at least to me, reparenting to me means like learning what you missed as a child and how's it impacted you, affected you, and how you can correct that, right? And how you can grow from that. So, um, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think every parent should look into the mirror and look into themselves and say, okay, how was my childhood? Okay, what was things that I was lacking in, right? And you know that your parents did the best they could, but what are certain things that you can do better at for yourself, right? Or was things that you realize about yourself because again, like I used earlier, right? Your parents did everything for you, so you're like, man, okay, in a way that's enabled me, and like I struggle in this, so let me try to help my child be a little bit more independent. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And then with gentle parenting, I know that's more so like a almost like a partnership, and not necessarily like discipline. I mean, I know some parents they let their child like discipline themselves. Um, I'm not one of those, but everyone's different. And like you said, obviously in our culture, right? Especially in the black culture, they for sure believe in whoopings and things like that. And I used to believe in that, and then as I became a parent and went on my journey, that's something that I don't really like to do. That's not something that's for me personally.
Yeah, on that note, the word discipline, right? As you and I have said, like it evokes this idea of like, physical hitting, or whether it's verbal or not. But really, what do you really think is like discipline within the context of parenting?
Um, well, so like discipline, at least growing up for me, right? Discipline meant automatically you're getting whooped, right? Automatically you're getting whooped. You might get some stuff taken away too, but for sure getting whooping. But now for me as a parent, discipline for me is talking to them actually. I first, again, communication, that's so huge for me. So I'm gonna talk to them and talk to them about the mistake that they made and why they're gonna get in trouble. I always make sure like this is why you're gonna get in trouble. And for me, my discipline is, hey, you're gonna get something taken away. Hey, you're gonna go on timeout. Or what I like to do, because it's one of those things. I again, like I told you, I don't want to necessarily do physical pain by me. Like I don't want to physically hurt them. So what I do is, okay, we're gonna do 50 push-ups. Okay, we're gonna I can't even think. Oh, sit on the wall. Where you can sit on the wall, you got to hold your stance for a minute, right? And literally, they get upset. They're crying, right? And they're getting upset, but at the same time, they're getting stronger. So even though I'm disciplining them, they don't realize like, hey, I'm getting you stronger. Hey, I'm getting you more conditioned, right? And that's my way of doing it because I'm like, you know what? You're gonna do it. You're gonna work out now, especially for my son. Like he's a mini me, so he gets in trouble often. But but I make him do push-ups. But I'm like, man, it's getting to a point where now he's able to do 50 push-ups, and he's 7. So I'm like, ah, I have to up it up a little bit more, right? But just different methods like that for me. But constantly talk to them, constantly let them know, hey, I love you, but this isn't what you're supposed to do, and this is the reason why. Like everything I try to do, when actually anything I do, I let them know the reasons why I do it. And everything I try to tie it into life. So, like I told you, when my son plays sports, I always make sure I tie everything into life. So that's what I even do with discipline. Hey, this is why this happened, because guess what? If you slack off on this, that means you're going to slack off on other things, right? And how can you accomplish your goals if you're slacking off? You're complaining because I don't know. Like let's say I make him, because I make him read at least like 2 books a day. He gets mad because he wants to play video games, right? And so I tell him, hey, if you can't handle your business here, then what's going to happen down the line? Or hey, if you can't, like no, I'm sorry. I told him like, hey, you'll read the video games, right? You'll read whatever they're asking you to do in the video games. So you should be able to do that as well for the books, because that's one of the things I remember being taught. It sounds terrible, but from this old black guy, he told me like what back in the day what they used to do to keep, which is somewhat true, keep great information away from the black community. They would put it in books, right? Um, and so I'm always a big believer in hey, reading is so important. There's so many, and not even just that alone, but just you can find so many great gems in the book, right? A lot of things we want to do, you can pretty much find in a book, but people want things instantly, so they don't want to read.
Yeah, absolutely. So final question, I guess, before I wrap it up is, what is your vision of the heart of education?
The heart of education. My vision, I guess, for that would be, I'll start on the parent side because that's obviously what I work with a lot. Is just a vision for my vision would be just, I know there's classes and things like that that some people offer, but I want it to be something where it's it's more emphasis on it as before you become a parent, right? Like you should really look into different resources, different things that can help you, different classes that can help you. That's going to give you the real, not like, oh yeah, you know what? When Johnny's upset, you're just going to tell him to go on timeout and you just read a book and you'll be okay. Like no, I want like real life situations to help parents, and even people that's already parents, like have those different resources, have those tools that can help them elevate them. Because that's the thing too. As parents, we should be growing as well, right? Just like our kids are growing, we are growing, or we should be growing. Because the way that I parent my 7-year-old, I shouldn't parent my 16-year-old. That would be silly, right? So we should constantly be growing. So I guess that's what I would love to happen. And then for the kids, I would love it where the kids know that they have options, that the kids have home ec again, right? They can cook, they have wood shop, driver's ed, right? Things that's going to really be helpful for them in the real world, right? How to do their taxes, right? Okay, oh, you want to be a YouTuber? Let's start a YouTube class, right? And I know they have a lot of great things that you could do, like in college, but like in high school, in middle school, right? Let's start it early where they know that they have options, where they're being taught, okay, these are things I'm gonna really be able to use in real life. Because I could tell you right now, like I have, I mean, there's people that have, but I have never used calculus in real life because I'm not in that field, so there's no reason to. I don't even think I've used geometry, right? Um, so yeah, that's what I would put is just things that's gonna really be things that's going to help prepare our kids for the future. Um, but again, it goes back to the parents. It goes back to the parents too. That's our job. That's our job, especially for if the schools can't do it, we're supposed to do it. Which is why I'm for parents that said, "Hey, I'm gonna start homeschooling." I get it. I understand. So that's my vision, I guess, is giving the resources for the parents to be or parents right now that's already parents, and just to let the kids know that there's options.
All right, awesome. So where can our audience find you if they would like to, work with you or find out more about what you do?
Yeah, you can actually go. Was it? You could go to actually my website, conquerthechaos.net. You could also email me at dreamersambition@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram at dreamersambition, Facebook. So yeah, any of those things will definitely be appreciated. But yeah, I would love. Oh, I also have my parent group that's completely free. No perfect parent. We're just in there. We're really just uplifting one another. I just wanted to create a environment for parents where we can vent, where we can laugh, where we can joke, and we can uplift. So yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Shawn, for coming on and speaking your wisdom regarding to hard education. Thank you, audience, and have a good one, everyone.
All right. There we go.
Peace.